What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, talking today about the idea of Xbox versus PlayStation, because surprisingly, a bunch of leaked statements have come out from Sony, from the head of PlayStation, Jim Ryan, just absolutely talking a ton of trash about Xbox Game Pass. And I want to take a look at his statements because they're surprisingly deep. They're financial. It's basically these people that are currently selling the biggest console on the planet trying to explain why they view Xbox as a failure. But let's talk about that. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, this is not like a console war video, but instead, I think I'm kind of just interested in this because publicly, Microsoft and Sony, they play nice. You know, whenever a game like Starfield comes out, you'll see PlayStation be like, hey, great release. Or, you know, something like Spider-Man's about to drop and Microsoft's accounts are being like, yay, Xbox is excited for the web slinger. But privately, you know, these companies are obviously trying to compete. They want the biggest market share. They want the most fans. They want to have the largest ecosystem. And right now, it's pretty clear, just looking at the numbers, PlayStation is winning by a huge margin. I mean, even just from raw release of just award-winning games. Think about the fact that in just the last couple of years, PlayStation's released God of War, Ratchet and Clank, Sackboy, Marvel, Spider-Man 2, oh wait, and now we have freaking Horizon Forbidden West, Gran Turismo. Even just on a first-party aspect, PlayStation is churning out a million games that are basically selling tens of millions of copies. And so it seems like PlayStation is not thrilled about the idea of how Microsoft is trying to really explode the concept of Xbox Game Pass. A small fee for a lot of games. But let me take a look at their statement specifically. So this is very fascinating to me. This is actually from a testimony given by Jim Ryan, the head of PlayStation, just discussing the mere idea of Xbox Game Pass. I can say with a very high degree of certainty that Microsoft has tried the first path and it did not work out well. That has driven them to make the large acquisitions. I talked to all the publishers and they unanimously do not like Game Pass because it's value destructive, not only on an individual title basis, but on an industry level. This is just a rather insane statement. To give some extra context here, this is actually from a series of deep dive testimony where they're quizzing the idea during the whole buyout of Activision Blizzard for $70 billion. They were basically trying to interview people at the heads of Nintendo, the heads of Bungie, the heads of Nvidia and stuff like that, and of course the head of Sony about how they thought that this would affect the industry. And this is one of the documents that got leaked. Now, it was actually leaked and then deleted, but somebody managed to copy it. It's very, very long. We're going to just take a look at a couple excerpts of it. But this is so interesting because right up front, they're not only saying that Xbox Game Pass is bad for Xbox because they're not selling enough games to be super profitable, but additionally, they're straight up claiming everybody secretly hates Game Pass. Now, this is something that's already stirred up some controversy. Some game publishers have actually even given pushback. A lot of indie studios and stuff have said, hey, our game exists because of Xbox Game Pass. We're having trouble trying to get funding. Microsoft came in and paid to finish the game. So objectively, there are some games that love Game Pass. This statement right here of unanimously, people do not like Xbox Game Pass, it's a strong statement and at the very least is hyperbolic. But keep in mind, he is under oath. Jim Ryan here is not lying. He's giving his interpretation of the data, but let me keep looking at this here. Their recent number that was released is that there are 25 million subscribers to Xbox Game Pass. I'm sure everyone has their own views on this, but I personally was expecting a larger number given all the money they've spent. We have close to 50 million PlayStation Plus subscribers. We believe we have a meaningful subscription service. Now, obviously the idea of Xbox Game Pass versus PlayStation Plus, in my opinion, is a very unfair comparison. Game Pass is just better than PlayStation Plus, especially now that they raised the price of PlayStation Plus. Game Pass is cheaper, it gives you more games, you get every single Microsoft Studios game day and date. The second it comes out, it's on Game Pass. PlayStation Plus, they give you some random free cool games, but it's a lesser service. Now, additionally, I feel like their numbers here are a bit funny to me because while there is technically 50 million people that have PlayStation Plus, most of them just have what's called Essential. Only 14 million of those people, so 30%, are actually on the tiers that compare to Game Pass. Essential is the lowest tier. It's essentially just cloud saves and online pay. So them trying to say PlayStation Plus is double the size of Xbox Game Pass, it's a little bit misleading, but again, this is Jim Ryan's interpretation of the data. I do think it's it's very strange to me that he would say that 25 million is a tiny and unprofitable number, but along with this, we actually have some sales data. So this is kind of crazy. This is also from the leaked documents. This is actually how much money Microsoft is making on Xbox Game Pass. You can see right here, Xbox Game Pass subscriptions, Xbox Game Pass monthly users. It's interesting, very technical data. So I'm actually going to scroll down here a bit where Phil Spencer himself breaks it down. Essentially, Xbox is running at single-digit profit margins. That really is a very tiny amount. It means that Xbox is in the green. They're not technically burning money, but to say that they're super lucrative or, dominating the industry, you definitely couldn't say that. I will admit, I'm surprised that Xbox is profitable at all. I mean, maybe I just live in a bubble where I mostly play on PC and I don't see a lot of PC people talking about Xbox Game Pass all day long, other than Starfield. A lot of my PC gamer friends do love Starfield. I don't really care for Starfield, but good on them. I think more than anything, this kind of highlights the difference in ideas that they're trying to achieve in the gaming industry of Xbox Game Pass versus PlayStation's upfront cost. You do have to pay more for a PlayStation game, but not to be mean here, but PlayStation games are better by far. I mean, God of War Ragnarok, freaking Last of Us. I mean, think of the amount of PlayStation games that win every game of the year. Ghost of Tsushima. I mean, it's so common, the fact that I can literally list the last 15 years. There's a lot of very big award-winning games from PlayStation because they have a high mark of quality. Whereas, I mean, what does Xbox win? In the last 15 years, what has Xbox won? I guess Xbox won Best Racing Game for Forza a couple times, which is well earned. But here's what else is fascinating about this, is that Sony seems to think that the failure of this is the fact that maybe Xbox is spending too much money on acquisitions. Here, President Jim Ryan starts to talk about the idea that they're trying to really focus more and more on their own first-party games. They're trying to reinvest. They said, we are making profit from a lot of our third-party games, which does include stuff like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Final Fantasy 16. These are making a ton of money for PlayStation. Even games like Activision, like there's been talks about the fact that Call of Duty makes billions and billions of dollars just releasing third party on the PlayStation, even though obviously it's on other platforms. They're basically saying that their effort is to grow their own brands beyond anything else. So right here, that is the single biggest thing, and one of the main reasons that we are embarking on M&A. So this is a business term that means mergers and acquisitions. If you feel like your company can't grow anymore, or it feels like it's growing too slow, you do M&A. You basically go, okay, who can we buy to get an extra chunk of audience, or who can we merge with to really diversify our portfolio, that kind of stuff. I'd also like to point out that we're growing our own existing studios, increasing capabilities and their ability to output in various areas, including live services. I feel like this part deserves a lot more attention than it currently does. Large buyouts, like what they're trying to do with Activision, gets all the headlines, but there is a lot going on, and growing your studios organically, successfully, is the smart thing to do. Essentially, again, this is Jim Ryan straight up talking trash. This is Jim Ryan just saying, like, hey, you guys may be able to afford to buy Bethesda, but I mean, in a lot of ways, the buyouts that have been happening at PlayStation have been better. They paid like $225 million to buy Insomniac, the company that's making Spider-Man, the person that's making Wolverine. Right now, Insomniac, oh yeah, they also made Ratchet and Clank, no big deal, I guess. The fact that Sony is trying to buy tinier companies and making the most profit off of it. Like even the Bungie acquisition, a lot of people are saying that the Bungie acquisition for $2 billion is going to make hundreds of billions of dollars in the long run, because now they're taking a lot of the taste makers, a lot of the people at the head of Bungie that understand how to build a game, how to release content patches, how to monetize updates, how to keep your players logging into a game for months or years at a time. They're taking those people and having them work in other departments of Sony now for their upcoming live service games, which, fingers crossed, don't suck. I'm still nervous because honestly, I don't like live service games, but let's hope that stuff like the Last of Us live service game and the leaked Horizon online game, hopefully those are good. But I think it shows the fact that there is very different strategies from Microsoft to Sony. I think part of it does come down to the fact that Sony needs to succeed. I've said this in the past. It is definitely an old phrase people repeat. Hunger is a good motivator. Xbox doesn't need to exist. Microsoft is making trillions and trillions of dollars. If Xbox just flatlines, the sales of Xbox consoles keeps going down and down and down, obviously. But I think that just makes it where people at Xbox enjoy making good games. They're focused on making stuff. But I do think that in 5 years, 8 years, I think the Xbox brand could just completely disappear. The Xbox game studios may still be making projects like new Halos that are coming to the Nintendo Switch 3 and the PlayStation 7 or whatever. But I think there is a good chance that Microsoft just stops caring about hardware and just makes games for the fun of it. Whereas PlayStation, Sony isn't making a lot of cash overall. Sony Pictures is not the most profitable thing. Who even talks about Sony phones or Sony laptops anymore, right? I mean, at this point, the main profit margin of the entirety of Sony is the PlayStation brand. That desperation, that fire under their asses really motivates them to make the best games possible back to back to back. I mean, let's just say it. Someone's going to get mad at me. I'm just going to say it right now. Sony would not release a game like Redfall. It wouldn't happen. If a game was that busted, they just wouldn't release it. They would just absolutely go, hey, this is going to damage our brand. Even if they released it on PlayStation Plus, they would not release a game as busted as Redfall. But Xbox, they're willing to just take L's like that because they just don't need the hits as much. But these have just been my thoughts. What do you guys think about the idea of current day PlayStation, current day Xbox? And what do you think about Sony's kind of disparaging remarks towards the current content cycle of Xbox Game Pass? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And please, if you could, give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And please keep dreaming. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.